Oh, whoa. Okay. There's my microphone. It's been a few days since I streamed, so I figured I'd do that again. And speaking of long intervals, it's been a while since I played this game. I've been doing a bunch of night range streams and stuff, and I've been wanting to, like, I know there's still a lot more left to Mahoyo, and I want to see this game through, and and this is probably going to be the last stream that I archive publicly because of what is it? I think it's, there's like a policy for this game that you're not allowed to stream it past I think it was chapter 6, and it's like halfway through the game, and I don't want to just stop streaming it there. I don't know. I feel like not having the VODs publicly available would be a decent compromise. So I think I already said it before, but that's what I'm going to be doing. But anyways, here is Mahoyo again. Let me switch to the window. Okay. So, if you do not remember what happened last time, this is also to remind myself because it's been like over a week, maybe 2 weeks. So it was Sojiro and Aoko. They were at the abandoned amusement park. Aoko was trying to kill Sojiro, but then they were attacked by this puppet thing, which they're barely able to escape from. And I think they killed it. I think, I don't remember. But then like Alice was like pissy because Aoko was supposed to kill Sojiro. And now they're about to have like a cat fight or something, and now that's where we are, I'm pretty sure. All right. However, without blinking, Alice dispersed the shot that Aoko had mustered all of her spirit to fire. Oh, she's so cool. Actually, let me double check to make sure my YouTube stream, because I'm like anxious about YouTube now, because like the one time it didn't work. I think it's up. Wait, no audio. Okay, yeah, my stream's up. I don't want to have another issue where it's just like not. I don't even notice until the stream's over that YouTube didn't work. But anyway, Aoko tutted in frustration. A swift sneak attack that used a simplified incantation would not be enough to break Alice's guard. As stiff as ever, I see. Don't you think that shell is making you complacent? Aoko provoked Alice in order to disguise her own lack of composure. Somehow, Alice seemed delighted by Aoko's bravado. I suppose this is what they call fighting words. I've never fought to the death for such a trivial reason. I'm really shocked. Humans are such conceited creatures. Alice giggled. She's so silly. Smiling with a heartfelt amazement, Alice gestured her left hand towards the earth. Forks? Plates? Ooh. Stab, 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 stab. Countless utensils shot up from underneath the cobblestone paving the plaza. Suzuki, get back. Quite the fucking attack. Attacking with kitchen items. She grabbed his hand as she shouted, jumping backward before he even had a chance to respond. As if they had wills of their own, the utensils that had suddenly appeared from the ground gave chase. As the barriers of spears grew around them, Aoko and Sojiro put some distance between themselves and the clock tower. That all you got? Car. Just under 30 feet stood between them and Alice. The lethal weapons that had crumbled the stone beneath them fell short of what Aoko had anticipated. They now encircled the clock tower, making the scene look like that of a burning witch at the stake. Isn't this backwards? We expect the spirits to try and stop us from escaping. The path behind them was safe. If they wanted, they could try to make a break for the main gate and escape. This fucking face. Are you sure about this, Alice? Sorry, but if you're gonna let me escape, I'm not gonna pass this chance up. If she could just make it back to town, it would be Alco's win. All she wanted to do was let Sojiro get away for the night, so if she could get him back to the city, it would be, for the most part, mission accomplished. Juice! Or so she had thought. Without even offering a glance at her target below, Alice carefully and lovingly pulled out a bottle from her pocket. A green flask. Wait, that's... Damn it! Fire! I think that she brought this up earlier. I forgot what this was. I mentioned like a little flask. Her shot was deflected with ease by a bunch of fucking plates. Gone was Alco's earlier bravado. It was only natural. Alco had indeed grown as a mage. Over the last 2 years of study, her studies had progressed well. And she'd more or less gotten a grasp on her roommate's tendencies and abilities. This had made her conceited enough to believe that under favorable circumstances, she'd be able to show Alice a thing or two in a fight. Alice uncorked the magical bottle. A gentle breeze caressed her cheek. Diddle Diddle fled as a new player stepped onto the stage. Not the Diddy Diddy. But from where would it enter? The sound of footsteps, a nostalgic parade approached. Oh, it's on! Actually, that looks pretty nice. Kind of pretty. No way! What emerged was a miracle that Algo Ozaki, an apprentice mage, had never witnessed. The dead came to life. The inanimate awakened. The woods were enveloped by the mists. Fire-breathing lizards lurked in the swamps. Puppets made merry at midnight. Alice Kawanji's slender fingers had transfigured the entirety of the park, as if gently stroking the back of an elderly cat. Very well. Let's pray pretend, Alco. Pretty. For one night, the wasteland of dashed hopes and dreams was restored to its former glory. Is she gonna drop the whole fucking Ferris wheel on? What's this going on? It was an immortal monster ready to devour reality. A dark fairy tale that once unleashed would never let its prey escape. Can I show... One funny thing about this image is that the eye, this glowy eye is like on her fucking forehead. You can like see it. I saw this on Twitter. You can see like her actual eyes are right here. And her eyes, the other eyes right there. It looks silly. Run if you dare. I don't believe you'll get far, but if you can survive the night, I'll concede this round to you. Her declaration marked the start of a desperate battle. The witch in black laughed at her friend. Her musical mirth filled with affection, sadness, and innocent delight. Faded glory returned to Kitsy Land. The neon glow of innumerable lights illuminated the night. Speakers filled the air with the sound of vinyl music. Merry-go-rounds, small and large, whirled round and round. All in all, it made for a mind-bending spectacle. It was certainly possible to power the facilities by transmutating magical energy into electricity via alchemy. That said, simply supplying the park with electricity would not have brought back to life which was broken. The young woman did this not by mixing chemicals into a compound, but by melting down divine providence into a witch's brew. That's what she had then. This is bad. I've seen her ploys, and this one is something completely new. Connecting. Stifling her anxiety, Alco fired up the crest on her right arm. If magic circuits were a mage's engine, then their crest was software that assisted their magecraft. For the fledgling mage Alco, this was her trump card. All she had to do was supply magical energy to her crest-based formula. It may not have been the strongest magecraft, but it was hers, proof that she was the successor of the Aozaki lineage. Execute double layer. Direct current to crest. The pattern of her crest shifted to execute the formula, which then connected to her magical circuits. The process resembled trains changing rails, a puzzle involving dozens of circuits. She constructed it as swiftly as possible, without sacrificing the quality of its construction. Instant magecraft's cast without incantation would not be enough to reach Alice Kuanji. Alco had gauged the strength of Alice's defense with her initial shots. She would dial up the power 5 times the next time, driving 20 tons of force into her target. Alice had the protection of the thick, hanging fog and the dense barrier around her. However, this attack would be enough to pierce through both. If Alco struck home, it could cave in Alice's chest and end the fight. At worst, it would at least knock Alice down from her position atop the clock tower. Hey, I have a question. As always, there's one guy who spoiled the deadly tension, pulling Alco out of her killer mood. Sojiro had been looking back and forth between Alco and Alice in confusion. What's going on now? He said it like he might ask for directions to the train station. Normally she would have lashed out in response, but his deadly serious tone shocked rather than angered her. Unbelievable. Is this just my life now? Alco swallowed back a sigh and returned her focus to activating her crest. Negotiations have broken down. I pissed her off a bit too much. From her perspective, this is a good chance to kill me off, along with the entire theme park, I guess. Sojiro tilted his head, as if begging for a simpler explanation. She's really got it in for me. I can't even imagine what sort of death she has in store if she catches me. What I'm saying is, neither of us are getting out of this alive unless we do something about her. So you're saying I got dragged into your quarrel? Pretty much. As Sojiro protested in a tone wholly inappropriate to the situation, Alco let another blast rip out of her right arm. She was not aiming at Sojiro though. A little earlier in the day, and Alco would have been happy to do exactly that, but now her attention was forced on the girl in black atop the clock tower. Horses. Alco's mind struggled to catch up with her astonishment. She had fired the strongest, fastest magic bullet she had the ability to conjure, and Alice blocked it. That much was to be expected. When Alice set her mind to defending herself, such an attack was child's play. But what just happened? Something Alco had never seen before leapt to Alice's defense. A team of horses? A plague of locusts? No, those existed in the real world, unlike what Alco had just witnessed. Normal creatures could not form like a spontaneous cloud of fog and then dissipate just as quickly into the night sky. What? Impossible things moved in impossible ways. Alice was not even supplying them with any power source. Those things never needed power in the first place. Those broken and discarded things did not follow the rules of mankind. This was an invasion of fairy tales. Compared to them, the automaton looked merciful. Autonomous puppets were products of magecraft, but even then they had behaved as a puppet should. These nearly animated things, however, were nothing of the sort. Empty vessels became living creatures. Dummies warped into malformed beings. There was a fog so dense with magical energy, it was visibly spread to all corners of the park, bringing with it a monstrous welcoming party that easily numbered over 1,000. Spurred on by the shuddering sensation running down her spine, Alco fired a barrage of single-action magic bullets. Her impulsive attack scattered futilely? The knights of the merry-go-round soared into the sky. Green, fire-breathing lizards flocked. The bakeries opened their doors once again, and human-sized loaves of fresh bread marched from their ovens as platoons of newly baked soldiers. Alzaki, behind you! Alco and Sojiro were completely surrounded. The Ferris wheel creaked as it gently turned. The rickety train car raced about the roller coaster's tracks with Kitsy, tears streaming down its face aboard. It was a grossly twisted fantasy. The girl in black reigned over the insanity-fueled park. Oh, now we're screwed. Alco was transfixed by the scene unfolding around her. Then she realized what was happening. Oh, I know what this is. Alice had once told her of Meinster's familiars. Among them were three in particular of notoriety, one of which she recalled being capable of something similar to this. And it was called Ploikisha, Flat Snark. That's a cool name. Seriously, Alzaki, behind you. Oh shit. The horse is here. Struck by Alco's bullets, the creature exploded into splinters. It was clear Alco's shots were becoming more powerful, but it was also the case that these beings were less robust than your average automata. Suzuki, this way. Alco turned away from the clock tower, grabbed his hand, and began to run. Wait, Alzaki! Sorry, no time. We're running. Running? To where? Doesn't matter. Anywhere! She shouted as though trying to persuade herself as she valiantly cleared a path. Alco's magic bullets flew like a scream, blowing away the creatures that blocked or simply gathered around their path. She made a hole for them to escape through. Magical bullets exploded like blue fireworks. Alco and Soja ran down the bumpy brick road. Their bond, forged in the heat of battle, went far beyond mutual convenience. They headed for the park's exit at full speed, without exchanging a word or look. The weirdness only extended as far as the park's border, so they would be safe as long as they made it outside. But, speaking in pure numbers, the difference in strength was 2 versus an army. Or rather, 1 versus an army. Sojiro was hardly useful in this situation, and manpower wasn't really the issue here since they were facing puppets. You okay? Those are some giant pincers back there. Ako shouted as she blasted away the monsters that stood in their path. There was no time to stop for breath, or even to look back. Yeah, just barely. As Sojiro pursued, his voice, too, had naturally become shrill. 5 minutes earlier, they had broken out of the siege at the plaza surprisingly fast. It seemed that the residents' awakening differed case by case, with larger creatures taking additional time. We're lucky they're not the morning type. Ako joked as she mowed down the small fry that popped up. But then, without warning, something outrageous extended its way down from above them. It was the claws of the 60-foot lobster adorning the roof of a seafood restaurant. Its pincers were like a guillotine. As Ako and Sojiro cut across the front of the restaurant, the Red King pressed in at tremendous speed, keen on splitting both of them into 2. Suzuki, hard about. Oh, like turn around. This way's no good. The gate was just on the other side of the restaurant, but they had to take the long way around in order to lose the giant lobster snapping at their heels. Waiting along their detour had been a horde of monsters, too many to count. Yeah, just barely. Okay, that's where we just were. So I don't know why they just didn't. Why they already did that out of order, but whatever. Sojiro called out in response, recalling just how narrowly he had avoided his head being severed clean from his body. In front of us. What the heck are those? Are they freshly baked? Looks like it. In other words, they're cannon fodder. Ako halted her sprint and set her crest into full operation. Range 7, 6, 5 yards. At this distance, Snap will take them down. Sliding along the brick path, she brandished her right arm. She loosed a shower of magic bullets. Snap was a single action spell that favored rate of fire over power, and it mowed down the monsters with satisfying pops. Azaki, more over there. Roger that. Blue explosions bloomed along the lamplit promenade. Alko's curtain of fire fanned out. It was a marvelous star mine fireworks show. The toy breadman turned into charcoal. We can do this. They've got us overpowered in numbers, but at this rate, we'll be able to get out of here. Let me get a drink. Hold on. Okay. Suzuki, how's it look over there? Looks clear to me. We should be able to approach the exit from the east. With the magical barrage that would leave an average spellcaster blue in the face, the novice mage broke through the siege. Meanwhile, a single bird keenly watched everything unfold. Chirp, cheep, 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 chirp. The moment the bluebird descended into its master's field of vision, it made its high-pitched call. The girl listened expressionlessly to the report. No matter. Everything is going as expected. Even if she only knows how to shoot and destroy. The way Aoko uses her magical energy is extraordinary. Hastily formed familiars are no match for her. The robin flapped its wings as it tweeted in response. Perhaps it was also criticizing Alice for complimenting Aoko. Or perhaps it was jealous of Aoko for being praised by Alice. Alice could barely make sense of its chirping rant. Aoko Ozaki was a novice mage. Until just 2 years ago, she had grown up with no background in magecraft, compared to Alice, who was raised as a witch from birth. Aoko possessed far less talent and experience. There was simply no comparison to be made. In a contest of skills in magecraft, 10 times out of 10, Alice would be declared the victor. However, that narrative changed when it came to battle for life and death. Alice Kuwanji was not the type of mage suited for combat, while Aoko Ozaki, on the other hand, was built for it. In a contest that pitted magical energy against magical energy, even Alice would concede that Aoko had the upper hand. Aoko's manipulation of magical energy was extraordinary. The scale of her magic circuits was smaller than that of Alice, but their rotational speed, durability, and output quality, not to mention the efficiency, were otherworldly. That was Aoko Ozaki's hallmark. Though she had many failings when handling sophisticated formula, in just 2 years of practice, Aoko had surpassed Alice in simple formula that merely required an energy output. She also had a genius's instincts and adaptability. Though Aoko was not particularly proficient at executing magecraft, she was surprisingly fast. If she had been born outside the Ozaki clan, she would have doubtless risen to fame as a competitive sharpshooter. What a pity. In a straight shootout, Alice did not stand a chance. Alice Kuwanji never bothered to learn primitive magecraft like magic bullets in the first place. She was the classic puppeteer. Her familiars served as her arms and legs to carry out all the particulars of battle. Clock's ticking, Aoko. I'm happy to lend you all the ammunition you like, but after an hour, those bullets will be worthless. Chirping as if in agreement, the robin took flight. It had been nearly 10 minutes since Alice had made the amusement park into her domain. To what would the green fog give birth next? Aoko and Sojiro, still running about, would soon come to understand the gravity of their situation. Suzuki, is this the way out? Yeah, the exit's just around that store. Running non-stop at full speed had them at their limits. Their breathing ragged, the duo rounded a corner at a breakneck pace. Amusement park though it was, this was still the infamous Kitsy Land. It would have taken a high school student 20 minutes to sprint the entire circumference of the park. And though they were now intimately familiar with the park's geography, well, it's the fucking face again. It was changing beyond recognition. The transformation was not limited to the park's residents either. Ozaki. What? I hate to ask, but is it just me or is the park getting bigger? It was. The problem wasn't as mundane as mistaking the location of the exits, nor the strange terrain. No, the park was warping and twisting upon itself. Even as they ran, its structure was expanding and growing, like that of a living creature. Soon the pair noticed that the mob encircling them had grown even stronger. Entrusting her back to Sojiro, Aoko summoned all of her effort just to keep from whining. No one would blame Sojiro for cowering in shock, but for Aoko to do the same, She bore responsibility for causing and she bore the responsibility for causing and then dragging him into this mess. She could not afford to succumb to panic. Pull yourself together, Alco. The park has to end somewhere. It may be far, but the fence is right there. Even Flack Snark has its limits. Getting to the exit is the right choice, I think. But from here, it looks the better of a part of a mile away. Up until now, they had been too concerned with simply running. Their breathing had become labored. If they had to run another mile without rest, they'd end up collapsing along the way. Ozaki, how are you holding up? Physically, I mean. What? The whisper from behind pulled Alco back to reality. I'm fine, but I need to catch my breath. Good idea. We'll never make it outside if we don't rest. You know, I never would have thought you'd be okay with making a run for it. She let slip a giggle. Far from debilitated by her panic, her comrade in arms had been analyzing the situation and forming an escape plan. Why don't we hole up in one of those buildings for a while? I don't like it, but it's your best option right now. The breadmen had them completely surrounded. Perhaps this might have been a problem for an average person, but for Alco, breaking through their formation to get to the building would be a cinch. The issue was, which store to pick? She considered the characteristics of the transforming park. What would pose a danger and what was safe? The most important factor was not the strength or the complexity of the building. Keep it simple, stupid. Suzuki, this way. After routing the monsters, Alco hopped behind a counter, soon followed by Sojiro. Get behind the counter. Like she was in a western shootout, Alco squared off against the monsters, using the counter as cover. Bingo. Nothing in here can get snarkified. After assessing the state of the enemy, Alco sat down behind the counter. What are they doing? They're stamping their feet in frustration because they're angry that they can't get in. Alco gave the perplexed Sojiro a grin and took a moment to catch her breath. She heaved a heavy sigh of relief and fatigue. We'll take 5 here. The restaurant is the blandest place in the park, which makes it its Achilles heel. The registers and utensils are all modern, and there are no mascot characters. It's just a bit too civilized for Snark to mess with. Snark? That's their name, though Alice is the one who came up with it, I think. It doesn't really sound like her, but whatever. That's just what they're called. Perhaps now at ease from knowing that they were safe, Sojiro seemed enthralled by her explanation. Alco could not help but chuckle as Sojiro nodded sagely. It was certain that he had no idea what she was talking about. Normally this would have irritated her, but this time she was grateful for the warmth of his strange sobriety. It's good that you seem better, Ozaki. Mistaking her smile for composure, Sojiro broke into a smile himself. It was just another link in the chain of misunderstandings, but there is no need to redress it. Oh, you can't tell? Yeah, my magic bullets are getting more powerful. Well, you did chase me all around that house of mirrors while firing those things at me. So I guess I've become really familiar with them, for better or for worse. Are you sure you're okay, though? I remember you mentioned that you had a limited number of shots, but you fired at least 20 or 30 so far, right? You know, every now and then you... Hmm? Her opinion of him improved just a little bit. Never mind. My bullets increase in power is a simple matter of the density of their magical energy. You've seen that fog around the park from a bit ago, right? It's all just magical energy. Think of it just as fuel for my bullets. Magical energy was divided into two broad categories. First was Od, produced inside a mage's body. Second was mana, which filled the atmosphere. At the moment, the amusement park had turned into a fairy tale land, overflowing with mana. Although it meant nothing for the average person, to a mage it was a paradise where spells could be cast as much as one pleased. So that means you don't have to worry about how much magic whatever you have left then. All we need to worry about are injuries and stamina. Well, as far as our own lives are concerned, yeah. Sojiro breathed a sigh of relief. From Sojiro's perspective, more so than the monsters she mowed down, Aoko was the biggest bully on the playground. She had been concerned what would happen should her magical energy be exhausted, but luckily for him, she was far from surrendering her crown. It's nice that you trust me and all, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. Those minions out there are just walking garbage. If Alice summons any more fairy tale monsters, let alone the actual Snark making an appearance, there's nothing I'll be able to do. Other fairy tale monsters? You mean apart from the other... You mean there are others apart from the ones that changed the park? Yeah, they're called Kikshas. Aberrations that even we as mages can't stand to look at. They're nonsense lost to time, used to revive impossible fantasies. Sojiro's expression seemed to be calling her out on the hypocrisy. Hey, most of us have modern standards, you know. Obviously, there are things we can't do, and we're no match for modern weapons. The 20th century, well, a bunch of wars helped weapon technology catch up to us. That girl is a different beast altogether. Mankind's evolution can't hold a flame to her power. Take those breadman for instance. Something like a machine gun would have no effect on them, probably because guns make no sense to them. Ako casually gestured outside past the counter. Alice's familiars are mystics, needed from fantasies. They're all impossible in the first place, so they don't play nice with the laws of physics. That shouldn't come as a surprise, since fantasy and reality can't exist together. I see. So they're literally walking loaves of bread. Sojiro seemed to have ignored the majority of Aoko's explanation and only reacted to the part that caught his curiosity. To get back on topic, modern arms don't stand a chance against those things. Even rockets would be useless. They aren't part of the same order or shared consciousness as us. To the Ploy Kikshas, to the fairy tale monsters, anything that doesn't exist in their world, anything they don't understand, disintegrates before it can even touch them. Only something equally nonsense can touch them, like magical energy infused with the same level of mystics. They exist wholly on their own conceptual space of they exist completely on their own conceptual space or cosmos. Ahem. In short, they're protected by a special rule known as folklore defense, meaning that neither pure force nor strong magecraft have much of an effect. They can't be taken down without exploiting the weaknesses found in their original stories. Are you familiar with the Greek myth of Achilles? It's a good, straightforward example. Sojiro shook his head. Of course you are. If we get out alive, have Tobimaru tell all about it. It's a cliche, but it's a good story. Sojiro was feeling pretty lost, but he did his best to grasp the situation. He thought that ploy kickshaws were scary enough to chase Alco and that puppet from before out of the house barefoot. Certainly the scene before them was the stuff of nightmares. But Sojiro had a different way of thinking. I think you're more scared than me, Alzaki. Do you want to die? Sojiro waved in protest, silently pointing out that she had made his case for him. Listen to me. The things surrounding us now are little more than fire. As far as Alice is concerned, the breadman, the lobster, the meat mincer at the sausage place, they're all worth even less than my magic bullets are to me. Got it? The moving mascots and all the rest are a sideshow. Nothing more than a breath of the monster she unleashed. These things are just the breath? Yeah, crazy, I know. But that's what we're dealing with right now. Just one of those fairy tale monsters is enough to keep us busy. So if Alice decides to add another, we might as well give up. Add another? Isn't there some sort of limit? If she decides not to be stingy, she has a few more up her sleeve. Though, well, there are conditions to bringing them out. Like one monster that won't wake up if there's no river nearby. The park has fountains, sure, but no river, right? Familiars are bounded by their underlying stories. By fairy tale, you mean like the one about a bowl of soba noodles? Let me tell you, it's a small mercy there's no river here. Otherwise, something way better at squishing us would have appeared by now. Alco continued, completely ignoring Sojiro. Anyway, as I was saying, the foundation of Alice's magic is Mother Goose. Alright, you wouldn't know that either. Mother Goose was an author of whimsical English nursery rhymes. To be honest, this type of ploy kickshaw isn't all that scary. Taking them down with some sort of magecraft is totally possible. I'm afraid to ask, but what about the scary kind then? They follow another fairy tale inspired by Mother Goose. Alice's mother was particularly fond of it, and every single one is bizarre. No mage wants to go up against one of those things. As it happens, that's exactly what brought the park back to life. I'm pretty sure it's the one she calls Flat Snark, though I wasn't particularly paying attention, so I'm a little hazy on the details. Sojiro swallowed the discomfort making its way up his throat. He really wanted her to explain things a little less vaguely, but something she said had just necessitated further investigation. Wait a second, Alzaki. You mean to tell me you weren't paying attention? Well, you know, it was a while back then she explained it all to me, and I didn't really believe anything she had to say around then. I thought maybe that she was talking up her own magecraft to a newbie, or she wasn't taking me that seriously. In truth, if anyone hadn't taken the lesson seriously, it was Alco. She would learn that lesson firsthand soon enough. She would learn that lesson firsthand soon enough when she experienced just how real Alice's monsters were. She'd also discover how heretical the Meister witches truly were in the world of magecraft. Can you remember anything else about them? From what I understand, it's a ploy that puts up a powerful bounded field. Alice inherited a lot of ploys, but this is one of her finest. It takes discarded and forgotten things and resurrects them like what would happen in fairy tales. Supposedly, nobody's ever defeated it. Oh, and its nickname is the Untouchable. So it's not Flat Snarker or whatever it was. That's just a nickname too, since nobody knows what its real form is. It picked up a few names along the way. One of them is Flat Snark, and it ranks high amongst her other nonsense in terms of how little is known about it. Have you heard of the book The Hunting of the Snark by Lewis Carroll? Personally, I haven't. No, and who is Lewis Carroll? Okay then, let's start from the beginning. Professor Dodgson was... he was a delusional gentleman with a particular disposition. Not that it matters now. It's a waste of time to explain to some people. What's important is the work that he left behind. The Hunting of the Snark is a book about a band of adventurers who try to capture an unidentified monster known as the Snark. It's very Carroll, satirical, nonsensical, and cryptic. It doesn't even really have an ending either, though the party does ultimately find the Snark on its island after much hardship. It ends with the protagonist who found it, the baker, suddenly disappearing. It's a satire about people who run about busily trying to find something they don't understand. But when it comes to the park here, it's pretty clear who the baker is and who the Snark is, right? Aoko elected not to share this, but Flat Snark had other popular names as well. The Enigmatic Island, the Five-Dimensional Plane. These names were not given to it by Alice, but rather muttered by mages from whom the Meinsters defeated. In mathematics, snark is a term used in graph theory to refer to a contradictory and impossible planar graphs. A plane, proven to be unable to exist in this world, was given the name, apt for an ill-fated existence, paradoxical in nature. The fairy tale monster ascribed this name was said to hold no form discoverable by man. Aoko also declined to mention something else. Flat Snark was a fairy tale monster that could grow. It would hide somewhere in the amusement park, continuously exhaling magical energy until the park completely transformed into a fantasy land. Well, it's not like there's any point to scaring him. Did you say something else, Zaki? Nope. I was just thinking. Flat Snark's power is the ability to bring fairy tale worlds to life. When you think about it, the park makes for a perfect backdrop. I mean, it was originally a playground based on fairy tales anyway. If this had been a business district, for example, Flat Snark would have posed a far lesser threat. At most, its power would be limited to projecting the shadow of a dinosaur onto a building's window panes. Ah, so that's why it's safe, huh? Sojiro realized that something was wrong when he noticed the glutinous liquid dripping onto his back. Hi, big guy. He looked up at the ceiling. Their eyes met. Before he had a chance to think, Sojiro hopped from the floor. Azaki, get out, now! Taking the initiative, he jumped from behind the counter. Are you mad? Are you mad? What do you think you're... Trying to stop him from committing an act of suicide, she also came to her feet. Immediately, she noticed something coming to life overhead. What the? Oh, crap! Are you the Snark? Aoko's dead. Oh my god, that was close. Thirsty today. The gargantuan mouth clamped shut. With no mascot to speak of, the burger joint itself began to transform into one giant monster. Who the hell paints a giant clown on the ceiling? Should they have flexed the creative muscle somewhere else? If they like clowns that much, why didn't they put it at the entrance? Aoko aired out her grievances as she ran. There was no safe haven left. Moment by moment, the last remnants of civilization were being eroded away by fairy tales. Oh, there's a whole ass fucking dragon now. Holy shit. Neat. The amusement park had reached the final stage of snarkification. It was not just the mascot characters that had been granted life. Like the burger joint, even the buildings had begun to transform. The roller coaster that made its way about the park writhed and twisted like a Chinese dragon. Aoko and Sojiro stared dumbfounded by the Ferris wheel, which had grown over 250 feet in height. Hordes of breadmen closed in on them, as if to offer tickets. I'm telling you, the line is under control. Maz's trinkets, actual kickshaws rampaged the park. I don't know what the fuck kickshaws are. It was a battle of attrition with no end in sight. But that was a matter of course, as there were few fairy tales about limited resources. This is hopeless. They just keep coming. Look for the Snark's real form. A fairy tale monster has some vessel for its body. If you could just destroy that, we should have a chance to get out of here. I don't know what the fuck a Snark looks like. A body? What kind of body? I already told you, fairy tale monsters can't exist in reality. Anything weird or impossible if you've never seen before, that's gonna be it. Something weird or impossible? I need an example. Do I have to spell it out for you? Living puppets, flying go-karts. Ako paused her firing for a moment. After saying this out loud, she realized just how deep their grave was dug. The amusement park was a treasure trove of fairy tale-esque creatures on any given day. Who could say what was impossible amidst the newly transfigured knickknacks running around? Damn, everything here is weird. So it's hiding in plain sight. Hoping that she was wrong, Ako bit her bottom lip. Flat Snark was the type of ploy that deployed bounded fields. Seeing as it was commanding so many familiars, it would not be unusual for its main body to have little or even no defenses. Furthermore, if it was modeled from a story about it being untouchable and unidentifiable, it would be logical to assume that it would collapse in on itself shortly after being discovered. Which means, we find it, we win. Would something so fragile really be hiding among its minions? They do say that the best place to hide a leaf is in the woods. This was closer to the truth than Alco realized. As long as there was the slightest possibility of it being hit by one of Alco's stray bullets, it would not dare to appear in front of them. Its true form was orchestrating the park from somewhere else. I'm sure we've seen it already. It's the subject of a book named after it. If it's not standing out on every page, it has no right to even be the title character. But where? Put very simply, the Ferris wheel was the safest location in the park as well as a symbol of its past glory, perhaps. What if we just try to catch up to her instead? Her eyes opened wide at the sudden suggestion. While Alco had been trying to come up with a plan to overcome the stalemate, it seemed Sojiro had been racking his brains as well. His proposal was a simple one. If they could not find the Snark, they just needed to take out its master, Alice. Alice had not moved at all from the clock tower. Even from here, they could make out her figure, draped in moonlight. That's the worst move we could make. Even if we killed her, it wouldn't stop the snark, and all of this absurdity would just boil over outside the park. Not to mention, I can't even kill her in the first place. Best I could do is get halfway there. A bread man, angered by the insult hurled at his master, moved to attack and was mercilessly burned to a crisp. The two stood back to back, catching their breath. With no plan to speak of and no route of escape, they reached rock bottom. Meanwhile, the oddities were forming a circle around their prey, as if they smelled blood in the water. Were they to be dragged into a bakery for the oven, minced in the meat grinder at the butcher shop, skewered and paraded around atop the carousel, walked the plank of the thorny pirate ship? After 2 years of slumber, they were eager to welcome their new guests. There's something I need to ask you, Ozaki. What is it? Keep it snappy, I'm thinking here. Okay, it's painfully clear what these things want to do with us. What about her? Does she enjoy this? I doubt it. These things' hatred of humans comes from a deep-seated grudge against the park itself, and maybe even Flat Snark's personality too. Alice's familiars are one big family of freaks. Though now that you mention it, Alka was unable to deny that there were some similarities. Good to know. So did you come up with anything, Ozaki? How do we stop them? Sorry to get your hopes up, but I'm all out of ideas. Oh, but I bet they'd stop if you drop dead. No thank you, let's just get out of here. Wait, Suzuki! She blinked in surprise at the sudden turn of events. Sojiro, why did I lisp it like that? Sojiro, who had until now had been meekly following her lead, had grabbed Alko's hand and pulled her with him on into a head-on charge with the swarm of bread, in an attempt to break out of the encirclement. Are you out of your mind? How on earth did you figure out this is where we go next? Alko nonetheless followed Sojiro's uncharacteristically gung-ho lead, cursing him all the while. Alone, he had no chance of breaking through the surrounding wall of enemies with brute force. Alko regained her bearings and let fly a spray of magic bullets ahead of Sojiro. They burst through the net and ran as hard as they could. At this point, all that was left to do was what they had planned from the outset: get out of the park. But not before addressing what needed to be addressed. Where the hell did that come from? Hadn't you already given up back at the House of Mirrors? Alko could not begin to comprehend Sojiro's reaction. That was then, and this is now. Just run! What are you talking about? Alice must have killed you for exactly the same reasons I did. This won't play out any differently. Though she wondered what was getting her so worked up, Alko did not stop. She told herself that the degree of Sojiro's stupidity, charging the breadman so recklessly, had caused her to lose her cool. Hey, don't get the wrong idea. I'm not going to kill you again tomorrow. Wait, I'm going to try and kill you again tomorrow. I'll really do it. So if you don't want to die, you should try to escape me. You should try to escape me too. Then let's talk about that tomorrow. I don't really care if you kill me, but I just don't want to be killed by that girl. Like I said, why the hell not? I don't even know what she looks like, nor have I ever even spoken to her. What? It was like someone had doused water over her blazing fury. Alko's anger was snuffed out by an absurd simplicity of his reasoning. Because you don't even know what she looks like? Could it be that Sojiro did not mind being killed by someone as long as he had met them? Alko grimaced as she followed him. From her spot atop the clock tower, the girl observed the growth of her familiar. Flat Snark, a savior of the discarded. It was a vile, vulgar fairy tale monster who provided those abandoned by fate with a glimmer of hope before snatching it away. Alice had it under her control, but she was still keen to keep the Snark from expressing its bad habits. After completing a lap around the park that had now reached the size of an entire town, the Robin made its situation report. So, they're trying to get out. It seemed Alk was prioritizing the safety of the boy. Even if it resulted in wasting an entire day, choosing not to capitulate on a decision was very much like her. That's too bad. I was sure Alka would attempt to burn the clock tower with me with it. The blue bird cheeped in response. Was it denying its master's portrait of Alko? Or agreeing that it was Alko's style to do exactly that? An outsider might interpret its interjections either way. Does this bore you? The robin jumped at being addressed so unexpectedly. It chirped and flapped its wings like a flustered servant, frantic to say otherwise. It's rare for us to get along so well. Okay then. If it's a game she wants, a game she'll get. Let's liven things up, shall we? Calmly, she pulled out a small object from her pocket. I don't know, that doesn't look very small. It looks rather big for being a pocket, inside your pocket, you know. It's a big-ass egg. It was a dark gray Easter egg, and emanating from inside of it was the ticking of a clock. The robin knew it to be a ploy kickshaw with a bad attitude far exceeding Flat Snark's, known to be among the best in one-on-one situations. Go. I've set the extolling time for 20 minutes. Break. In that subtle way of yours. And together with the witch's breath, the egg filled with praise disappeared. Suddenly, a strong wind swept through the park. The words, "I could have killed them all by myself," floated through the air. It was the disappointment of something enormous that was visible to all, yet overlooked. Alko and Sojiro continued their dash towards the boundary separating them from the outside. The curio horde that stood in their way had been reduced in number. The iron fence that separated the two from the outside world was just over 300 yards away. Unfortunately, there were no particularly large buildings barring their path. If the Ferris wheel had stood in their way, that would have spelled the end, but thankfully it had yet to reach its full strength. The only things that appeared before them were weak oddities that could be easily handled by Alko's simple magecraft. At this rate, we just might. She would have said made it to the fence, if only her lungs would allow it. Since Alko was utilizing the ample mana filling the park, her tank of magical energy was nearly full. Moreover, the condition of her body's circuits was steadily improving to the extent that she would be able to unleash at least one all-out onslaught. Until something unusual was hovering in her field of vision. It was locked on Sojiro, hovering 10 feet above him, over to the one side. Suzuki, look. What, that thing? It's been on us for a while. Sojiro had seemingly noticed it before Alco, hence his previously awkward gazes toward the sky. In truth, it would have been stranger for him to not notice it. In truth, it would have been far stranger for him to not notice as the thing was practically glued to him. In terms of its size, the floating object measured about 3 feet in diameter. Tiles covered its exterior, about which a multitude of spinning lights danced about. Is that an egg? Sojiro asked, not really sure what to call it. An egg? If it's an egg, that means it'll crack! Her bullets bounced off like it was made out of rubber. That trait, the ability to deflect all outside interference, confirmed to Alco that this thing was undoubtedly a ploy kickshaw. Knew it. I can't break its rules from the outside. Suzuki, don't take your eyes off it, even for a second. No matter what happens, keep your eyes locked on it, even if it's just the corner of your vision. Okay. Alco picked up her pace as she barked orders. The Eggman who sat on a wall. He would crack just as the tale spoke of. Oh, so is this Humpty Dumpty? Humpty Dumpty? I mean, she names all of her shit after fairy tale characters. Nothing anyone could do or say would cause him to fall, but the moment they stopped looking, he would tumble down and break into pieces. All the king's horses and all the king's men could put him back together again, or so it said. It was the Mother Goose poem, Humpty Dumpty. If Sojiro was its target, then the moment he averted his gaze, it would tumble and explode. Except for the exploding part, who knows what will happen if it falls. Either way, it was going to scatter something troublesome when it fell. Its oval shape, the keyhole adorning the front, and the writing inscribed upon it, they all made her anxious. If it was an egg, that meant it was going to hatch at some point. Even if he continued to stare, once the time came for whatever was to come out, they would have even less ability to conserve their energy. Azaki, slow down, would you? If you use up all your energy now, you'll... Forget about what comes next. Just focus on watching that egg. At this critical juncture, Breadman stepped out to join the egg and block their path. Out of the way! The Breadmen were marching forth in a grand battalion. At her level of firepower, Alco should have easily mowed them down, however. These have hard crusts? Take this! If Snap failed to do the job, that meant it was time for her to put her crest to use. Draw. A formula-triggered bullet is encased in a full wind jacket. If her previous shots were the equivalent of a machine gun volley, then this was her artillery shot. The hard crusted bread that had absorbed her snap without a dent scattered into thousands of tiny pieces at her draw's torrent. Whoa. Of course, the destruction did not even end with the breadman. What had once been a brick road was now thoroughly stripped of its pavement. The nearby stalls had been warped into steel skeletons. It was a spectacle that made Sojiro question what the greater obstacle to their escape was, the wall of breadmen, or Alco's ability to lay waste to things. Hey, don't wander off. It's dangerous if you don't stick close to me. Come on, get closer. We're out of strikes, you know. If they surround you, you're a goner. You should know, hostages don't mean squat to me. And it's not like I can pick out my targets precisely anyways. This made a lot of sense to Sojiro. He had not fully appreciated the part about hostages, but he got the gist of it. So basically, I'm in danger no matter where I stand. You... Offended though she was by his typical naive response, she could not help but be impressed. Sojiro was a straight arrow through and through. His eyes stayed firmly focused on the egg overhead, even amidst the chaos of the melee unfolding before him. I don't know why I worried. It may not be the sharpest tool, but you sure are good at following orders. One thing, Alzaki, am I imagining it, or do those breadmen seem tougher than before? No, you weren't imagining that. They're getting stronger. They must have nailed down their mass production process, so they've turned their attention to upping the quality. As you figured out already, they're just doing that to get tougher as we go. It seems like even those bread guys have started to develop individuality. I hate to think about it, but they might start spreading themselves with jelly, or wearing their fillings and merging with one another. Other fillings. Though she was joking, her eyes were dead serious. Sojiro shuddered at the thought of the situation growing even more dire. So you're saying that those guys are going to become as terrifying as the puppet from the House of Mirrors soon? Oh, you can count on it, and I'll have my hands full with bread that rare. Say, Suzuki, think you can handle yourself against one of those? Sojiro shook his head, a look of complete aversion upon his face. I didn't think so. So let's get moving. We can't afford to hang around here. Ako did a quick, deep breath, then began to sprint once again. Far in the distance, through the fog, the iron fence waited 300 paces away. As long as nothing happened, they would make it there in one piece. One piece. Sojiro followed after Alco, holding on to all that convenient hope. But hope was something ever fleeting. Are they ever going to escape this fucking park? In fact, it lasted not even 300 yards. The edge of the amusement park may as well have been the edge of the world. Dozens of, I don't know how to say that word, undulating horizons could be seen, crowding the sky like a giant cloud or a thick curtain, or perhaps groaning lips. It was the end of the road, the outer limit of an outrageous and fantastical realm. And yet, Alco found it much to be like the last page of an enormous picture book. The sight turned her mind blank. Well, this is just about as bad as it gets, she thought. The Snark, this island of despair, had at last brought Alco to her knees as she stared at the swelling border. The park had indeed an end. Even now, as Alco and Sojiro had expected, a fence divided the amusement park from the residential area neighboring it. It had both doubled in height and had been made sturdier. Another hurdle she had foreseen before even laying eyes upon it. Hold on, I got plugged in my phone. I forgot to do this at the start of the stream. It's low on battery already. Oh, jeez. One sec. There we go. Are you gonna charge? Please? Charge. Yeah, no, fuck it. Hold on. The fuck is wrong with this shit? Okay, it's not, now it's, yes, allow on phone. No! Bad phone. Allow. Fucking. Charge, please. Wait, is it? Let me try flipping the fucking cord. Charge? Please, please, please. Why does it just keep, like, not wanting to charge? It just keeps unplugging itself. Please, just... Oh my god, this is pissing me off. It keeps like... Okay. We good? I think we're good for the moment. Okay. The fuck? What's going on there? Jesus. Expecting it to have been snarkified, Alco had come prepared to demolish an obstacle or two. But this construction before her went far beyond a mere wall. It was an ocean that separated the underworld from the mortal one. The iron fence was like a restless, surging sea. 1 or 2 walls could easily be toppled. Even 10 or 20 could be dealt with one way or another. Between the power left in her body, and that had filled the park, putting on a brave front was within her power. She could fully mobilize her circuits and her crest to the point of burnout in a last-ditch effort, like some reenactment of the parting of the Red Sea. But then that would be it. Even if the path could be open, she would not have the energy left to walk it. And it was obvious what would become of her afterward. The residents would hardly forgive her for wreaking such havoc around their park. Like ants drawn to honey, they would swarm the helpless girl and tear her to pieces. Despondent and exhausted, she felt the faint sting of remorse. Escaping the park. Looking back on how they had gotten here, Alco recognized that her choice had been her undoing. Under the golden full moon, beams of steel bent and merged, like wireframe sculptures. It was only a matter of time before the amusement park itself became one colossal monster. The horde of familiars gathered in the plaza where Alice was had formed an impenetrable blockade around her. Just above the head of the boy beside her, the whispering egg, called Scratch Dumpty, cool name, continued to shuffle what appeared on its surface. Ozaki. Suzuki. The boy's voice snapped Alco out of her trance. If only for a moment. The stark reality of the situation quickly dawned on the novice mage. The sheer hopelessness of it all, as it ripped out and snatched away any will she had left to resist. Let's head for the gate. It's hopeless here, but we might have a chance at the entrance. That flat snark thing, you said it has its own set of rules to follow, right? Then we need to think about the basics. The fence would have been impassable from the start, but the gate might still work as an entrance and exit. Sojiro had not given in to panic. Ako found herself honestly admiring Sojiro's ability to analyze Snark's characteristics, given the circumstances. Now calm, she steeled her resolve. You're right, the gate is a good option. But just getting there will be a challenge. Even the weakest enemies, those loaves, are becoming hard to deal with. Plus, the best of her familiars are just going to keep gathering at the plaza and the entrance. I mean, the gate itself might be a monster even worse than the Ferris wheel. It's designed to look like a giant kitsy. So you're not going to the front gate? Now you have a better chance over here. Alco took another glance at the undulating... I still don't know how to say that word. undulating iron fences. It was too late to achieve their goal of making it out alive. In that case, she decided to prioritize the other promise she had made. I'm going to go ahead and break down the fences here. You have to escape once you see an opening. Then, my job here will be done. Though her words were few, her tone told the whole story. She was telling him to escape by himself. It's not possible. You can't destroy them by yourself, Aozaki. If I were by myself, you'd be right. But right now, the park is actually helping me. With this much fuel, all I need is to aim and pull the trigger. One good blast should be enough. That said, I'll only be able to do it once. So as soon as I open a hole, you need to run like your life depends on it. She would carve a path through this iron sea of fences, gambling on one final effort, a great incantation to launch the biggest projectile she could manage. As an outsider, Sojiro could not even begin to imagine just how much of a burden this would be for her. All he could do was imagine a hazy version of Alco being left behind in this park. What would happen to her? Will that girl in black come to save her? Cruel as it was to imagine, he knew she would not. After Alco had exhausted her very best in order to save him, that girl would not stay her hand. The only way Alice would let Alco off the hook was if Alco killed Sojiro as payment. And so, get back about 50 feet. It will take time to cast, but I'll make sure to finish this before that egg gets hard-boiled. It went without saying that this was the only path. Wait, I want to know. Is there even a point in letting me go? None. Even once you get out, there's no way you'll be able to escape Alice forever. But I'm stubborn to the very end. I said I'd protect you, so I'm damn well gonna do my best to keep you alive. Surprised by her seemingly moral stance, Sojiro saw Alco in a new light. But of course, Sojiro also realized that she was not fighting for his sake, but for the sake of her pride. Right. I guess you did say that. But it's not like you let me go by myself. Oh, give me a break. Just move already. Alco eased off just a bit. Excuse me. A little sleepy. She recalled how an hour ago he had gotten the best of her. Aozaki, if you're still willing to fight, then let's do it some other way. If you can destroy that monster of a fence, let's put your power to better use. There isn't anything else I can do. Sorry, but all I can do is destroy what I can see. Dying for some forlorn hope isn't how I want to go out. Don't you get it? The fact is, blowing this thing up to let you slip out is all I can manage. I can't beat Flat Snark or anything else. It's the least I could do after... So you're gonna run from this responsibility too? Alco was just about to turn her back Alco was just about to turn her back on him when Sojiro clutched her hand. What do you mean battery low? What do you mean battery? I just plugged this fucker in. What do you mean battery low? This fucking charger, man. I don't know why it's acting up today. Maybe it was that stupid fucking update I was forced to get on my phone. Anyways, his words caused something inside of her to boil with rage. It was as though someone had set her heart on fire. The surprise that pricked upon her true feelings and the disappointment she felt towards herself thawed her frozen limbs. Why, you... Don't get it backward. I'm the one letting you escape, not the other way around. I'll blow the whole damn park if I feel like it. Just you watch. Okay, in that case, it'd be a waste to help me escape right now. Save that move for when you really mean it. I'll give you a hand until then. Huh? You help me? Talk about a waste of time. Now you're really pissing me off. Just get out of here, you dimwit. What use do I have for a dunce whose special power is running himself ragged? I may be pretty exhausted, but you're in worse shape, Aozaki. Just look at yourself. You're tired and injured. Not to mention the injury to her back that Alco had nearly forgotten about. Even now, she couldn't ignore the pain that the automaton had inflicted upon her spine. With iron will, she'd managed to push it out of her mind mostly. Even without any of that magecraft stuff, I'm still in better shape than you are. I could probably even carry you all the way out of the entrance if I need to. Don't make promises you can't keep. Just go. I'm used to this and you're not. This is your first time facing this sort of thing, right? So it's okay. The fact that they were a team. The fact that she would still have to kill him after all of this. None of the irony was lost on her as she said these words. It didn't matter anymore. Still, Sojiro did not let go of her hand. He gripped it even harder. His expression was the same as ever. Alco frowned, trying to figure out if he was upset at her. You're right. This is my first time with this sort of thing. But I've Hold on, my mom just messaged me. I'll answer now so I don't forget. 1 second. There we go. Mama fairy. Anyways, what was I saying? Oh yeah. But I've experienced my own fair share of danger in the mountains. I've even been attacked by a deer, you know. As a city girl, she had no idea what it meant to be attacked by a deer, but his determination was apparent enough. True. Looking back on it now, he had maintained his composure through it all. A normal person would barely be able to talk through such panic. Perhaps growing up deep in the mountains far from civilization had taught him how to stay calm in the face of so much. God, my phone is still losing battery. What the fuck? It's plugged in. Please, I don't want to die in the middle of the stream, please. That would suck balls. Plug in. Plug phone in. Plug phone in. Why is this? What's wrong with this piece of shit? My little charger isn't working anymore. What? Is it gonna keep looping this again? Or is it gonna actually charge this time? Okay, let's see if it actually. Wait. Oh no, it says. Oh, okay, now it's charging. I think. It has like a little meter on like the charging hub. It says that it's giving. It says it's giving out wattage, so hopefully it charges. So trust me just a little. He spoke his plain. He spoke his plain, unadulterated feelings, and released his hand. There was no lie in him. In fact, he was too honest, so much that she found it hard to believe him. Sojiro had no reason to go that far. As it stood, Alco had no future. After confessing this and telling him to escape, why did this boy still offer to help a person like her? I don't understand. Why do all of this? You're gonna die if you stay with me. This is it. This is your last chance. Think it through. You should be running. I know, but I'm not going anywhere. Sojiro answered immediately, realizing that Alco was looking for his reason. This level of insight in Sojiro demanded a round of applause. If I do, you'll die, Aozaki. His words were as irrational as always. But why? Why don't you do it? Why go so far for me? She was yelling out of frustration. After thinking for a moment, Sojiro replied, I guess it's because I like you. Simple and to the point. His face seemed to ask why she would even question him so. There was a pause, no more than 2 seconds. His surprise attack had stopped Alco in her tracks. Alice was not the only one who had an ace up her sleeve. That line reached deeper, even than that flat snark could ever hope to. All Alco could do was respond with an expression of pure shock. It was a simple, stubborn reason, the strongest kind on Earth. Sojiro Suzuki was indeed incomprehensible, to be able to work unconditionally with someone who was trying to kill him. But she felt as though she'd finally grasped the sliver of his true nature. Tobimaru and the others' assessment of him was correct, as vexing as it was for her to admit. Even though I can't stand you, you sure are a dip, you know. He laughed at her sour grumbling. At this point, he was used to her insults. Their clash of wills ended here. Alco's blood ran hot from her blazing heart. If he was going to make a face like that, all she could do was try to think of a way to get them both home. Running away isn't really my thing anyways. Fine. I'll stick it out to the end. And if you're going to stay with me, Suzuki, I'm sure we can find some way for you to help. Though her tone had lightened, there was still hesitation in her eyes. It was only natural. Ako had not even a clue of how to even fight the snark. If only she had been just a bit more skilled, or had trained just a bit more, there might have been some way to look for it. I'm better than this. If only I had a way to peel back its true form. Unconsciously, she let her apprehension show. Sniveling was pointless. She would just have to figure it out by herself, but... What? That's all we need to figure out? Huh? Alco gave him a look, as if to ask what that was supposed to mean. I mean, you asked me earlier to look for something weird, huh, right? Sojiro also made a face that suggested she would have brought it up sooner. Wait, you know what it is? I think so. Well, I've been wondering about it for a while, actually. Sojiro whispered in her ear quietly, so as to not be overheard. It was certainly unexpected, but then again, equally obvious. After he explained the mistake, she knew right away that he was correct. At last, she had an inkling of Flat Snark's original form, namely... They strategized for 10 minutes. After deliberating the Snark's true form and figuring out a plan of attack, the two exchanged nods in acceptance of their roles. We'll be splitting up now. Just don't make it a repeat of the blunder in the House of Mirrors. You're the crux of this operation. If you bungle to start even a little, there's no coming back from this one. Though she jabbed him for his previous failures as a decoy, her voice was bright. Alco's original vigor had returned to her at Sojiro's discovery of the truth. Meanwhile, Sojiro was also getting serious in his own way. He took Alco's warning to heart. Good, but remember that our positions are reversed this time. If we fail, I'm not the one who's gonna die. You are. I won't be there to clean up your mess, so watch your step. I know. After all this, I regret not taking your advice earlier. I'll be careful. Sojiro nodded, telling her to leave it to him. Though he made it sound like he was holding a grudge, It seemed to him to be the only way of showing her his resolve. Aoko let out a sigh of defeat. Once more, she couldn't figure him out. Need another sip real quick. Let me check my battery too. Oh cool, my phone's still losing battery. That's nice. I don't know why. It's plugged in. My phone's fucking plugged in. Do I have anything like? Is there anything else? Like, let me close. I only have like the fucking messaging app running in the background, so it's not like it should be like overburdened or anything. It's probably the stupid update that I had to get for my phone. My iPhone's old, and I had to get an update for this one app to work. I had to do like a software update, and it's just been slowing down my phone because I don't need to get a new phone because mine works perfectly fine, you know, and I don't want to have to worry about buying a new one. So it just fucked, this stupid update fucked my phone up. So now I don't know if it's like the combination of like the V2 was already kind of demanding for my phone, and then that on top of the new firmware, it might just be like using so much like processing that my hub can't keep up with it anymore. I don't know. Whichever one it is, I'm counting on you. Don't let me down. She had always wanted to say that she believed in him, but apparently that was too embarrassing for her. Ako turned away from Sojiro and began to run. She'd begun to think that maybe this change of pace was not so bad after all. And so ended the intermission. The young cast members were handed their new lines. Whatever happened next, the Night of the Witches had, at long last, entered its climax. Bird. They split up? You're sure? She was filled with foreboding at the Robin's report. Apparently, they had gone in opposite directions. The park's residents had set off after the boy witness, and it would take them mere minutes to capture him, so the bird said. What do you mean? Is it actually him they're following, not Alco in disguise? The robin flapped its wings, tripping away any doubt. It had seen them with its own eyes. Alco was heading towards the plaza, while the cocky brat was making a run for the roller coaster. Are you saying that Alco abandoned him? It sounds a little too good to be true. Is Dumpty still on his tail? The robin nodded enthusiastically. It didn't know about the other birds, but with its superior night vision, it had seen that sucker clearly because he had moved to a high point. And Dumpty? He said to let him sing to the very end, that he may never get the chance again to do so for a fool this asinine. Scratch Dumpty was a ticking time bomb that would drop and detonate the moment its target averted its gaze. That is, as long as his target continued to observe him, in a way, he was a gentlemanly ploy kickshaw, though Alice wished he would forego such niceties when in battle. Let him have his fun. Keeping an eye on Dumpty won't save the boy anyways. Once the poem on his surface is complete, the door will open. No matter how far he runs, Dumpty will end him for us. Until the park, or rather the Snark, was destroyed, Sojiro would not be able to escape, which meant the larger concern was Alco. Alco had promised to protect the boy, which begged the question, where was she running to? As long as we stay here, we can't track Alco. Alice looked out over the park, ignoring the robin's attempt to get her attention with his plumage. Flat Snark had nearly reached its full size. It was a different breed of beast compared to the other cheap ploys. To her, it was one of her 3 most irreplaceable and precious familiars. Yes, she's all yours, Snark. Don't hold back until Aoko is brought to her knees. Alice remained where she was, with the same historical merit as the troll under the bridge and the poison claw reptile. Flat Snark was one of Alice's ultimate ploys. She was placing her trust in its reputation and ability. But don't forget, this is a game. When the contest is over, return to me. The drifting fog ignored its master's words. It was the one thing that Alice had misread. Flat Snark was a king, even among the other ploys of terrible, vulgar antics. Death to the defeated, gruesome tragedy to the vanquished. It found no pleasures unless it brought about dramatic ruination of life and wealth. Oh, my phone's actually charging now. That's neat. The fog billowed like wicked laughter. After all, only a king had the right to decide the fate of the vanquished, and the Snark's greed could not be contained. Thus, it hadn't even the slightest intent to play fair, despite its master's orders. Over 100 feet high, one careful step at a time, the figure made its way gingerly up the track, which stretched into the heart of the amusement park. He stayed his breathing chest and the pounding of his breath. Even tiny movements were an obstacle to his progress. Amazingly, the one making this pale-faced advance higher and higher was Sojiro Suzuki. Far below, he saw that a horde of bread creatures had congregated by the roller coaster platform. As they bustled this way and that, their numbers continued to increase by the minute, seemingly cheering on Sojiro with raised arms as he made his ascent. Or rather, they jeered as if beckoning him to come down. Well, at least they don't like heights. Of course, neither did Sojiro, but his current state was the lesser of the two evils. The only thing that followed him now was the floating egg. After heaving a huge sigh, Sojiro bent forward a bit and climbed the track that inclined towards the heavens. 150 feet now. If this were a skyscraper, he would be on the 16th floor. A strong gust of wind whipped through his hair. Humans had an instinctual fear of heights. In particular, a place like this, which called forth visions of falling to one's death, would cause a person's knees to tremble against their will. It was an instinct that forewarned death, urging its master to return to the safety of the ground. It was a reasonable reaction. Climbing the roller coaster's tracks went beyond funny stories and into the realm of fantasy. The strong winds and change in air pressure were a hindrance. His instinct screamed at him to stop, causing his limbs to go numb, his muscles to go limp, and his mind to race. Even if he had been tied to a lifeline, a mere 15 feet of climbing would still have caused his thoughts to freeze out of sheer terror. And it would only get worse from here, exponentially so. Every foot forward increased the load on both his mind and his body by another degree. I could do this, just a little more to the top. The burden of his mind notwithstanding, he carefully measured the toll on his body with every step. His legs, which had carried him running so far, threatened to buckle the moment he let down his guard. This fatigue was likely why Aoko had stressed that Sojiro's role was more dangerous than hers. Wait, would Aoko have been so worried if I wasn't tired? Sojiro laughed as he stared at the floating egg. He reflected on the course of events that had led to this absurd situation. Not even 10 minutes ago, they had been engaged in conversation. Okay, since we know what form it's taken, we need to talk about how we're going to destroy it. Yeah, we're back in time. Sojiro felt a shudder travel down his spine at Ako's smug grin. In hindsight, Ako had been more than happy at this point to make him do something absurd. How we're going to destroy it, can't you just... Sojiro wondered aloud. From what he had seen, Ako had enough firepower to tear clean through the fence. He'd refrained from speculating about the Flat Snark's true form because he felt that there was nothing they could do about it, even if they knew. But that had changed. For Ako, the impossible was quite literally within her grasp. It won't be that easy. By my estimate, I wouldn't get within 150 feet of the thing. Despair filled Sojiro's eyes. Ako lifted a hand to her long hair, and with a magically charged fingertip, clipped a tuft of it clean off. But we can make up the difference with some elbow grease. Get to the highest place you can, and when the time's right, I'll give you a sign. Just toss this into the air. That's all you'll need to do. But based on where Ako pointed her gaze, she did not mean to leave it up to Sojiro to pick the highest point he could. She was staring conspicuously at one of the amusement park's two main attractions, the roller coaster. So in other words, you're saying we split up, then you want me to run away from the monsters chasing me and escape to somewhere high, right? Exactly, and hey, won't you know it? The tracks of that winding roller coaster are perfect. There were two demons in this park. Her smile made even Sojiro want to respond that it was far from perfect. Far be from me to question your motives here, but you're not secretly working with that girl to kill me now, are you? Now, wasn't it you who said it was okay if I was the one who killed you? It's not nice to twist other people's words. Sojiro hung his head. This was not sane. If he did as she said, he would die from exhaustion before Kitsu even had a chance to eat him. I'm not a monster. Hey, look at me. I'll cast a charm on you. It was the lightest of touches. Close enough for their breath and skin to come in contact. Whoa, get a little close. Asaki, he finished with a hushed voice. For one of them, this was a rather mundane magecraft. For the other, it was a head-spinning, intimate ambush. The weight of the air, the tremble of one's breast. Light lags behind, while shadows pull ahead. Words that could not be pronounced by a normal larynx, carrying a peculiar weight to them, reverberated against his eardrums. If words were given colors, these colors would have been given the color of her name, blue. Sojiro's exhausted body and burning blood gently cooled. A bird in the sky, a fish in the sea, you in the distance. Stuff doubt and anxiety in a sack. Begin the journey at dawn. A shining star falls into your heart. In reality, it took but a few seconds, but the sudden contact had felt a little longer. Mesmerized successful, I think. This is the first time I've actually felt it take. I guess all those lectures from Alice paid off. A very merry Alco stood aside a very confused Sojiro. After he asked what the heck occurred, she responded. It's an elementary suggestion. I temporarily erased your sense of fear, so you should be able to climb there no problem. The biggest thing standing in your way is your nerves, right? If you don't feel fear, then no matter how high you climb, it's no different from walking a balance beam. He seemed to get it. And it actually all sounded like Greek to Sojiro, but he accepted it as an explanation for her strange actions. Are we back at the coaster now? Oh yeah. Finally, I made it. He'd arrived at the summit of the track. From nearly 200 feet high, Sojiro had a bird's eye view of the entire amusement park. He was able to spot Alco's figure right away. In the plaza, not so far from here, he seemed to be occupied with something conspicuous. Her surroundings lay still. The breadmen were still busy trying to figure out how to reach Sojiro by trial and error from the roller coaster's entrance. They were over 300 feet away now. No wonder I'm drenched in sweat. Look how much ground I've covered. The strong winter gales quickly dried the sweat on his brow, but he was drenched underneath his shirt. This much sweat was worth at least a half-mile run, not to mention all the scars he had experienced throughout the night. Okay, now all I have to do is wait for the signal. He felt a wave of relief. Not at the thought of Alco destroying the Snark and this nightmarish park. He was simply happy that he could repay a bit of his debt from the house. Debt. I have trouble saying the word debt. From the House of Mirrors. A blue bullet rose from the plaza where Alco was located. That's the signal. Sojiro stood atop the tracks, pulled out the pouch he had stowed in his pocket and tossed it forward. Without any regard for his questionable footing, he gave it a mighty overarm pitch. The small pouch drew a parabolic curve in Alco's direction, quickly becoming untied midair. Inside the bag was the lock of her hair and a small stone weight. Just throw it with the wind from somewhere high up, and I'll take it from there. Alco had said, but it was Sojiro's effort that had set the plan in motion. The tuft of hair remained airborne, drifting as if watching over its owner. Sojiro's job was done. He remained concerned about the egg hovering over him, but there was nothing he could do about it. Sojiro breathed a sigh of relief and leaned over to watch the rest of the plan unfold. But then... In the corner of his eye, he thought he spotted something familiar approaching Alco. Connecting to crest. Direct current crests. First layer, second layer, third layer reserved. Magical energy supply fixed to the greater source. Flow, check. Angle, check. Car. Formula stability, good enough. A pattern began to carve itself into the brick street. The casting of an unprecedented incantation with unprecedented range. Keeping the rising tension contained within her chest, the fledgling mage snapped her fingers. Done. Bull configuration. Convergent launch. She kneeled at the center of the formula and raised her head to the sky. Not even a glimpse of the transmogrified fantasy land around her entered her vision now. Only one thing, one untouchable thing was reflected in her blue eyes. So this has been in my mind for a while now. This was how their conversation started a minute prior. Sojiro had begun with the simple statement of fact. In truth, it really was the simplest of discrepancies. Any difference between the reality of an hour ago and the illusion of the present was both infinitesimal and infinite. I thought maybe I didn't know what I was looking at because of the clouds. It was hiding in plain sight. Too impossible to be real, too outlandish to be here. In this amusement park, where every paradigm had shifted, something was brazenly flaunting in its normalcy. Tonight's supposed to be a new moon, Aosaki. The moon! I figured. Yeah, come to think of it, that's actually what you started as. The distance from the Earth to the moon was 238,900 miles. If it truly was identical to the actual moon, then this monster indeed lived up to its eerie reputation. At a distance that vast, there would have been no need to hide. It could flaunt its true form for all to see. But if it had to hide its true form, that meant it was vulnerable. The monster's camouflage implied that it sat within the reach of human hands. At best, my max range is 650 yards or so. At this point, it was time to give it all she had. Drawing on the energy surging through the park, she extended her firing arm. A blue firework launched into the air. Looking up at her hair dancing in the wind above, Aoko reached out her right hand as if to catch the night sky. A mage's own body made for the perfect catalyst. And for a female mage, the hair she had grown out many years made for a particularly valuable and powerful source of fuel. To use it, all she had to do was apply her will. She locked the fingers on both her hands together and shouted, "Deploy third layer, all formulae. Commence linked activation." Oh shit. She hurled forth a clear challenge to unbind the moon to herself. To bind the moon to herself. Blech. The mist began to whirl about in a vortex. The monster high above bore its fangs at the sight of a blue spell that appeared in midair. Did she figure it out? By the time Alice had noticed the change, the hostility between Aoko and the Snark was palpable. Very well. This round goes to Aoko. Return immediately. Perhaps removing the rain clouds was too obvious a hint, but I suppose one can't win them. Flat snark. The fog continued to thicken with no sign of abating. The moon that had floated the night sky could not pardon such an insolent mage. As if the Lord of the Night would bow down to such impudence, there was no staying its wrath at a challenge so flagrant. Snark! The robin swooped in to give a report, but Alice waved it away. Her gaze was fixed on the transforming golden moon. Her calls of restraint did not reach it. This fairy tale monster was beholden to nobody, and it would have no qualms unleashing its vast might upon its puny prey. The core of her magic bullet howled. The magic circuits within her body spun. Aoko fed them magic energy, scorching her nerves with an imaginary flame. She was linked to the formula inscribed on the ground. The spell was read and executed the same way as it always was, but its output was beyond reckoning. With this much firepower, even this mundane process would invite injury upon its caster. It was enough to burn up the nerves that were acting as the barrel. I can do this. The imaginary heat had reached a terrifying temperature. Aoko trembled at this endless feeling, but would have to grin and bear it lest their efforts come to naught. Aoko could no longer move. When she had learned the Snark's true form from Sojiro, she gave up on any superiority a movable turret offered, instead opting to become a stationary cannon. That was the only thing she could reach it. Only way she could reach it. It was impossible to hunt the Snark unless she anchored her crest at its location and angle. At the same time, this action revealed that she was out of options. Once the fuse was lit, she would have no choice but to fight it to the bitter end. Alko took a deep breath. This was the way she wanted it. Her preparations were complete. She would be able to deliver this maelstrom of magical energy directly to the moon, like a rocket payload. The third mid-air layer served as the cannon's muzzle and sight. It would fire the magical energy once it reached criticality, and it allowed Alko to adjust the angle of the fire. Fog? The moon became warped in her scope. I don't know why I had trouble pronouncing became right there. As Alko charged her magical energy, the ploy displayed its golden form, as if to mock her. Come, worship the heavens, powerless scion of innocent bloodline. For there it was, a point among the otherworldly sky, a mystical visage obfuscated by jade mists and azure clouds. Called the greatest treasure known to the world of magecraft, a rarity more valuable than an entire kingdom, Crown Phantasm. That's it. That's Flat Snark. Set apart from the first, the world's greatest fabrication. Not yet. Just need a little more time. Her instincts screamed at her to delay no further. This fairy tale monster was the greatest of its kind, and it was about to expose its true form. Its open hostility made it clear that it was ready to counterattack. Can't move, not with an incantation this long. If it attacks before me, it's all over. She had to shoot it down first. Magical energy was at 80%. The formula was operating normally. All that was left was to pull the trigger, but... The calm voice in her head asked if it was really okay. She had one shot at this, and there was no going back. It was a battle of precision, with no room for miscalculations. Even a tenth of a second of hesitation would tip the scales. Was she ready for the pain? Was she ready to deal with the fallout if she missed? Could she really even take down the moon with such a tiny bullet in the first place? Enough. Shoot first, ask questions later. Her eyes, fixed upon the moon, were filled with determination. Undertale. She knew that the moment she fired, the intense recoil would overwhelm her entire body. Still, she shouted. Bring it on! I'm gonna send this thing spinning with all I got. With every ounce of spirit she possessed, she fired her ultra long-range projectile into the sky. The third layer embraced the magic bullet fired from the surface of the Earth. The crest, an extension of Alko's self, unleashed light to pierce the moon. However, an enormous blue canopy pulverized the beam. It returned the ether, that 3,000 degree flame, to nothing as it came to contact with the bullet. The recoil of the grand magecraft literally boiled her blood. Her body couldn't handle it. Her heart stopped. Her brain went numb from the pain and impact. Her nerves putrefied from end to end. But her magic crest revived them all by force. Ice? It was blocked by ice? Even though her vision had gone white, she could still see it. Swallowing the blood in her mouth, Alco looked up with a scowl. There it was, an enormous shield of ice and a sneering, deformed skull. Did I fire too late? Did I fire too early? Should I have shot before I made that shield? Or was it too reckless to shoot it head on? Who cares? First layer, second layer, reactivate! Hurry! There's no time to think or hesitate. The magical energy throughout the park began to gather. Alco knelt, across from the tyrannical face of the moon. She intuited that the ice had yet to fully form. Flat Stark still hadn't reached its full strength. Which is exactly why. Damn it, damn it, damn it, damn it! By accelerating the spell, Alco damaged her own body. The burden of linking the formula to the snark caused intense pain. All she could do was grit her teeth and endure it. All because that ice is tougher than my best shot. Alco had gotten a read on their relative strengths. Even if its volume of magical energy was identical, Snark's form, its magical scale, was on a different league. Alco could charge her energy to her absolute limit, and that would barely make a dent in the ice wall. Meanwhile, there was nothing she could do to prevent her own annihilation if the Snark gathered as much energy as it could. Then before that happens, she loaded her next shot. She issued orders to the floating third layer. Ignoring the toll on her body, she began to accelerate the first layer formula. The role of her right-hand single layer was to observe and store the surrounding magical energy. The thick fog that had drifted throughout the park was an ancient ether spewed out by Flat Snark's own body, but Alco could pour it into her formula. Alco's body, which had integrated with the formula, took on an amount of magical energy that far surpassed its maximum capacity. It seethed in agony, or rather, it trembled in delight. For a mage, magical energy was propellant to reach the realm of mystics, the expansion of internal time, the liquefaction of self, the release from the physical. They were all what one may call a near-death experience. On the precipice of what lay beyond, Alco stood firm and faced reality. Still, reality had come to break her will. The gap between them was plain to any observer. The gun barrel named Alco Ozaki had not a chance to chip away at that lump of ice. So, she accelerated the spell further. The skull grinned. That ice was no shield. It was a hammer to crush mages who did not know their place. The moon laughed as it prepared to crush not just Alco, but the boy atop the roller coaster as well as the park in its entirety. So what if it hurts? Her circuits were on the verge of going critical. Her body had been charged with the scorching power supply, from her fingertips to her eyeballs. She would see the bullet fired. She would arrange the magecraft formula as quickly as her nerves' transmission speed would allow. A single attack was not enough. There was no way to shoot it from its flank, which meant that there was only one solution. Reconnecting to alternating current. The third layer began to transform. It switched from direct to alternating current. The spell's supposed strongest point was its ability to adjust her trajectory mid-flight. But right now, all she wanted was numbers. Connecting. Octagram. All layers. Max rotation. Oh yeah. Spam chat. Got a bot in chat. There we go. You're ruining the moment, Mr. Stream Bear. A blue sun shined down upon the amusement park. Beams of light at maximum output streaked forth to pierce the golden moon. Take this! Holding down the trigger, she continued to fire, taking in energy ad infinitum. Infinitum. Blue flame shot forth at critical level, but the ice would neither melt nor mar. No amount of sheer heat could make a dent in something formed from such a colossal amount of magical energy. The toll on her circuits sent them berserk, and blood began to run free. The spin should have been more than enough. He's just too strong. The battle had become a tussle over the magical energy that filled the park. From the very beginning, this had been Snark's home turf. The Snark had control over at least 80% of the space, while Akko had 20 at best. No, I can't stop it. No. The castle of ice descended as if to call the match. All she could do was delay the inevitable. She knew that she had been backed into a wall, and right now, the only thing she could do was keep firing. Then again, perhaps not. There was another option. If she converted all of her magical energy into a defense, there was a tiny chance, no, not tiny, a great possibility, in fact, that she could save just her. Shut up and do it already. Not even that ice has a chance against all the magical energy here. Clinging to that broken hope, Akko continued to rotate her circuits. Time seemed to stop at the magical energy overdose. A second of intense pain lasted an eternity. Then, amidst everything, something appeared, and something approached one step at a time. Something from among the park's shadows. Something. Wait. She felt goosebumps from head to toe. The issue was no longer the ice overhead. In the midst of this stillness, the Red Death drew closer, step by ominous step. Why? Why now? Her circuits and her mind began to rupture out of terror. The composition of her formula and soul began to rip apart. There it was, just behind her. Its footsteps came to a halt. It reached around and cupped her face in its blood-stained hands. Greetings. She wanted to scream out with all her might. This is it. Nothing matters. I couldn't care less. Run or don't run, it doesn't matter. Quit hiding and reveal yourself. Use whatever you can and show no mercy. That was it. She had one final card to play. Once, a miracle had been gifted to her, almost as a joke. It made the ice look like child's play. That was what the Red Death had come to kill. Using it would spell ruin. Not using it would mean death by ice. Then why hesitate? There were no conditions on its use. There was no price to pay for its power. She simply would cease to be herself. That was all. Humans love to exist in areas of gray. Dozens of electrical impulses disconnect in the brain every minute. Nothing lasts forever, not even oneself. It was not anything particularly worthy of disdain. It was not even anything remarkably worthy of being called taboo. Shut up. What escaped her lips was now rage. Bewilderment from the red silhouette. The girl let out an inaudible scream. Could true magic truly be her savior? What an opportunist load of bull. After all, to begin with. I have no clue how to do that shit yet. Indeed, Akko was still in the dark when it came to that magic, whatever it was. Egg is still here. Le Dumpty. I'm such a moron. She woke from her momentary hallucination. The very illusion her breaking soul had shown her. Whining had the opposite effect on her. Her pride was now ablaze. So you're gonna run from this responsibility too? Sojiro was right. Her opponent had put her in check, but she had done just the same to it. It was clear why she was losing, so now all she had to do was a counterplan, well within her abilities. No matter the odds, she was not one to give up without giving it one last shot. That's right. Giving up only comes after you've tried absolutely everything. Her numbed fingers clenched into a tight fist. She was betting everything against the house, an unreasonable gamble that should have made her question her sanity. If her first step was off by an inch, her body would be instantly vaporized. But she knew a boy who never fled. She knew of a steadfast courage that could shine its light, no matter how small, through any desperate situation. Yes, there is more than just herself to be concerned about. If that ice fell, it would mean the destruction of the park in its entirety. Everything she had achieved, everything she had risked and dared and happily put his life on the line for, would all be for naught. Really? What possessed him to be so bullheaded? Determination and confidence surged through her like electricity. She was in no mood to be crushed by a giant sheet of ice. If she was going to lose, she'd rather do so as the grandest firework possible. Alka was a sore loser. At this point, she would rather burn herself to cinders than let it decide her end. Disconnect. Expand area. Reconnect. She grunted in pain. Energy raged through her body. Her circuits were on the verge of disintegration. Inscribed upon her body, her magic crest was magecraft given physical form. It did not, however, stop with simply skin and flesh. It burrowed to the very marrow of her bones. A playful smile graced her lips. Her sense of reason had been turned upside down by the pain. That was only natural. I can do this. She had to praise her own body for holding out for so long while pushed beyond its limits. The skull face noticed the abnormality. It finally recognized the challenge for dominance over the space. It laughed at the conceit it faced. Never did it expect a magician to challenge the great flat Snark, lord of vessels over a millennium, and in such an age of decline. She tried to catch her breath. She braced herself from the coming pain. She was going to smash that ice to pieces. Both had access to the same amount of magical energy. One of them was greatly outmatched, but there was a difference in her output. If I'm losing because of the scale of energy absorption and the size of the barrel, then the solution is simple. All I need to do is to make the formula bigger, and me with it. Reconnect. Bullet configuration. The feedback would go beyond anything she'd experienced to date. Quite simply, her decision went beyond recklessness. She expanded both formulae to maximum size. The first layer would transform into a giant vortex, swallowing up the mist. The second layer would process it from one end and pump it into her barrel. I was naive, thinking I could do something cute like shoot it down. What I need to do is blast it to hell! Primeval power answered the spellcaster's conviction. It formed the pattern of a writhing serpent. Voiceless, magical power flew a banner of revolution. Now look upon the earth, O venerable one. See now this pioneer, this first among trailblazers. She embodies a species that knows no fear, that renders not all manner of mystics and tradition. I'm done borrowing from you, you lying boojum. If you really want it, I'm more than happy to give it all back. For the newest magician commands the principle of consumption and extinction, or whatever. An aberrant bolt of light melted through the castle of ice. The barrel held fast. Her control of magical energy was divine. 100,000 miles of veins, equal to 2.5 times the circumference of the Earth, hungrily drank in the magical energy. The subsequent magical strike hurtled straight up at the moon. No, 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 no! Death arose from the moon's surface. A cry of indignant terror echoed through the abandoned park. Reality was burned into the eyes of this creature of fantasy. To Alco, its vain struggle was the taste of victory. Victory despite her absolute reckless use of magical energy. The energy scales had been tipped in her to their breaking point, but nevertheless in her favor. Bullet configuration. Total eclipse. Converge. Tear it a new one. Damn. Shatter, 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 shatter. The skyscraper shattered into atomized dust. The island, its unattainability extolled, had swallowed whole in the despair of its many challengers. Long had it proudly eluded mankind's intellect. Yet now, azure mist bemoaned its demise. In the sky, the icy canopy crumbled. The snark-hunting bullet jumped over the moon. Its throes of death sounded like the roaring sea, reverberating across this fairy tale land. The battle was over. The thick fog dissipated, and the shattered ice melted away before it hit the ground. A lethal bullet unseated the Night King from its throne, affording him no time to grieve his loss. The oil of the moon, the untouched flat snark, the dreamscape that had begun with its resurrection ended with its demise, drawing a close to the nightmare. Balloon. Oh man, I guess I went kind of overboard. Flat on her back, Alko looked up at the night sky. She lay there perfectly still, not able to move a single finger. When she tried, her whole body screamed out in agony. She was completely empty of magical energy, and her magic crest had come to a halt. She estimated that it would require likely a whole day to recover her bodily functions. Sadly, all she could really do at the moment was take a breath. At least her chest was swelling with pride. She had gone toe-to-toe with a fairy tale monster and had emerged victorious. The battlefield conditions had favored her, it was true, but there was no denying that Alko had come a long way in the last 6 months. Luck or not, I owe Alice an apology. Once a ploy's been broken, it's gone forever. Flat Snark would never again return to this world. It was an insanely rare item, so invaluable that it would have been impossible to price it for an auction at the Association in London. Car. Alko had sent Alice's priceless treasure to oblivion. Needless to say, things had gotten more than a little out of hand. Still, they had both agreed to the fight, so Alice probably would not complain. Even if she was furious, she would never be so undignified as to show it. The second Alko realized, her fatigue finally caught up with her. She did everything in her power to fight off the overwhelming drowsiness. Aside from a few minor internal injuries, her body was miraculously unscathed. She felt like she could probably stand up and dust herself off after a bit of rest. The golden moon continued to burn in the night sky. Well, you are oil after all. You could probably burn for... Alko's bleary eyes went wide in astonishment. She was still unable to lift a finger. All right. The baker who found the snark disappeared along with it. She sighed in resignation. Alko accepted that her final stand left her with only 10 seconds before she burned to ash too. Elsewhere, just a short moment prior, buffeted by strong winds atop the roller coaster, Sojiro gravely peered down at the ground. All he could muster was a single murmur. He could see Alko on top of some drawing on the ground, and... what in the world is that thing made out of? In the distance, there was something familiar in the direction of the ruined house of mirrors. Sojiro's job, to throw Alko's hair from a greater height, was complete. While not the most impressive of tasks, it was absolutely a matter of life or death. And to top it all off, just thinking about how he was going to get back down to the ground was making him dizzy. He had experienced more than enough trouble for one day. Wait, but... He was flustered as he stood atop the swaying bridge. A skull suddenly appeared in the night sky above. On the ground, he could see a circling blue light, with Kawasaki in the middle of it. And one more thing. From an angle that only Sojiro can see, a shadow stalked Alka while she challenged the moon. It was shaped like a person, missing the lower half of its body. The disembodied torso clawed its way towards Alko. They were still over 600 feet apart. Unfortunately for Alko, she completely failed to notice it approaching from behind. It's too far away to make it out, but isn't that... He was sure of what it was now. There's only one thing in the park that could chase Alko and not find him. And not him, the puppet. But I mean, maybe it's a coincidence, right? His mind ran in circles. It was a perfectly reasonable reaction. Any grip on reality he might have left. Any grip on reality he have had left was long lost when Alko started firing beams of light at the monstrous moon. Whoa! Alko's merciless fire buffeted the roller coaster like a storm. Just standing on it was almost enough for him to be thrown off and killed. At any rate, Sojiro couldn't fathom the situation. Should he head back to the entrance of the roller coaster and warn Alko about the incoming threat? No. There was no way he could make it in time, and to make matters worse, there was a hoard of bread down there waiting for him. And it very well may have been the case that Alko was already aware of the puppet and would take it out as soon as it got closer. If she was, Sojiro was sure he would only be in the way. But it did not seem like there was anything he could do to help. And beyond that, Alko was not the only one in danger. He was in quite the predicament himself. You can't go home again. The road home was never as safe as one thought. It was as true here as it had been in the mountains. The path he was on was no exception. As risky as the ascent had been, it was even more dangerous on the way back down. This was no time to be worrying about others. His shaking legs reminded him that only 200 feet separated him from death. I'll be fine. I know that, just... His head was pounding. This was reckless and stupid. Having been raised in the mountains, he was more sensitive to danger than anyone raised in the city, and just thinking about what he was about to do made his throat seize up. There was only one thing he could say for sure. Aozaki has no idea that thing is coming for her. With a sobbing shout, Sojiro started making his way down the 200-foot frame of the roller coaster. His face raced toward... His race towards death accelerated. He never meant to speed up, but the downward slope propelled him forward. Here I go. It was too late for regrets. Now that he was running, he had no choice but to go even faster. And time was not on his side. He would never make it in time if he took the long way down, never mind the breadmen crowding the exit of the roller coaster. With the exits blocked, the only outcome would be the same whether he went down slowly or quickly. There was no reason to rush to his death as desperately as he did. So what? So what if it was futile? Sojiro cleared the doubts from his mind. He turned his attention to what he could do. Keep his footing and try to arrive at the bottom as quickly as he could. Focus. Forget whether you'll be there in time to save her. The most important thing is, he had no idea what impulses were driving his stiff limbs. He just focused on the moment, pushing past the fear and the cold logic. At his core, he was the kind of person to deal with problems head on. There would be time to think about the consequences later. But hesitation was not the only obstacle. Not now. The worst possible hindrance appeared at a time when not focusing on the track would mean certain death. Sojiro sensed something wrong with the egg he had been so studious observing out of one eye. Something had changed. At the very moment he realized it. I can't be looking to the side right now. Sojiro stumbled and instinctively caught himself. It was a miracle he had not fallen. Descending a roller coaster on foot was an act of suicide. The egg stayed right by his side so closely it was likely it would collide with him. Though he was trying not to look at it, he could not help but feel uneasy at the door-like decoration in its center was gradually opening. Damn it, why now? He cursed his rotten situation. And yet he refused to slow down. He ran even faster, glaring at the egg on his side. This is crazy. What's wrong with me? Sojiro was baffled to find that he was smiling. Perhaps it had something to do with Aoko's charm, but Sojiro could not tell one way or another. He could still feel Aoko's fingers on his skin. The trust and expectation she had placed in him was etched into his heart. But what spurred him on was something entirely different. This all stemmed from a much deeper problem. It was something inside of him that he could not understand at the time, but he would eventually come to terms with one day. Alright, less than 5 feet left. Carefully judged the distance as he ran down the track of death. But the distance between what? That went without saying. It was the distance between him and the one thing that could save his life. He told himself he was going to do it, over and over like a mantra. Sojiro could not believe it himself. What he was about to do was incredibly stupid. But what is stupid when smart is not an option? I'm really going to do this. This is insane. Amidst it all, he laughed at how pointless such self-reflection was now. Temporary confusion, a psychological thrill ride, both had laid his soul bare. What really mattered in life? The answer to that question was simple. His primitive values did not crave success or reward. All he wanted was, this is it, to live the way he wanted. It wasn't an obligation to the people around him. His desire to live his way was his and his alone. Here we go. If the egg had been equipped with a vocal function, it would have gasped in shock at what happened next. The boy, who had only tried to escape it until this point, suddenly shifted his weight. He pointed his feet outward instead of inward. On the edge of one rail, he crouched ever so slightly to maintain momentum at the floating egg. Close enough. I can do this. He soared through the sky. It was a flight that lasted a mere 1.5 seconds. A cordless bungee jump from 100 feet above the ground. His destination? Le Don Petit. The one and only thing that would stop his fall. The giant flying egg. He shrieked, this time out of elation, as he desperately clung to the egg's surface. Just earlier, the cold-blooded witch had told him without fear the top of a building would feel no different than a balance beam. This from the same witch that would have been left speechless had she witnessed the spectacle. It was one thing to be fearless, and another to be reckless. What the boy did next would give her a headache in the days to come. I'm counting on you, egg. Clinging to the egg, he shifted his gaze away from it. He felt the rapid descent. Sojiro, focusing his half-shut eyes on the ground, leaped off the egg once they were a few feet in the ground. then turned back to it, careful to re-establish eye contact. Something so unbelievable, though, to Sojiro. The elevator at the department store and the mysterious floating egg were both moving objects, virtually indistinguishable from one another. Alright, it didn't break. It's always a shame when the food goes to waste. He landed near the plaza. The shortcut that almost costed his life had paid off. Sojiro took off running the second his feet touched the ground. The puppet after Alco was the only thing on his mind. He paid no mind to the moonlight in the sky, nor the egg, which was furious about being used and seconds away from self-destructing and blasting fragments all over the place. Ozaki! Huh? Alco's dumbfounded expression spurred Sojiro on. The curse was complete. The empty egg began to sing its warning to let them know there was no escape. Shrapnel from the egg exploded through the air. The ode to Queen Alice that Alice had engraved into Dumpty quickly robbed him of his senses. Okay, what was that? Was that it? He snapped back to the task at hand and ran to Alco, still lying on the ground. His legs moved as if they had a mind of their own, though he couldn't have stopped them anyways, since he could no longer feel them. Don't you puppets ever get up? The scrambled murder case. Piles of rubble became flowers of light blooming from the earth. The final curtain drew closed, and the defeated left the battleground. Had Alice Kawanji seen it happen, she would have been beside herself. The two had escaped by a hair's breadth. The only person in a position to witness that rare mutual destruction was the girl who had been saved from it. The boy who had never stopped running paid it no mind. Phew, I thought you were a goner. The safety of the girl in his arms meant infinitely more to him than the miraculous way in which he had saved her. The moon did not wait for dawn to set. The ornamental texture of the fairy tale sky kingdom faded away. All of the illusions returned to the way they were before. From the ostentatious chords reverberating through the streets, to the puppets welcoming their guests. Peace and quiet reigned once more. Over a forgotten kingdom never to be awakened again. Out flickered the embers of a late night dream, even the electrical lamps that illuminated the park. Nice tits. Together they watched it disappear. Sojiro lay on the ground, desperately grasping for air like a fish out of water. The curse of the exploding egg had numbed his pain, and he was understandably exhausted after all he had experienced. He looked like he could be blown away by the lightest of breezes. While Alco was also exhausted, she was still in better shape. Focused on taking deep, even breaths, she was already working to recover her strength. So, she addressed Sojiro indifferently, as her gaze remained on the amusement park. The abruptness of it all was a bit theatrical in nature. She wanted to look at him as she spoke, but her pride was simply too great. You did something kind of amazing, didn't you? The moment she had accepted death had seemed like an eternity. She was beside herself, in a shock at how indifferent she was as shards rained down from the moon. But a reassuring voice had snapped her back to reality. Why did he do it? What was he thinking? What moronic things had he pulled off? She had no answers for these questions, lying on the ground as she was. All she knew was that he had more than made up for his failure in the House of Mirrors, and then some, in those fateful moments. She addressed him, hoping to find answers, but found herself unable to probe further. To dig any deeper would feel like defeat, which is why it was so unlike her to ask him in the first place. Lucky for her, Sojiro had neither the capacity nor sensitivity to understand how egocentrical she was being. Amazing? You are pretty amazing, Aozaki. He stuttered between labored breaths. It was taking him so much effort just to breathe that he could not address her properly. She watched him out of the corner of her eye. Thinking back on it, the boy had performed the same role each time. Each and every time, he did what he could in spite of his fecklessness. It was far more admirable than her neatly suicidal tactics, even if she did defeat her opponent. He did not even recognize how extraordinary his last act of courage was. Here's an idea. If I help you kill that thing, will you let me go? At the very least, he had the courage to keep trying whatever he could. A spectator might have viewed him as a supporting actor. His actions were not exactly memorable. But the lead actress he supported did not see it that way. Well, I don't really want to admit it myself, much less say it out loud, but such inspired actions were wasted in a supporting role. This guy really pulled off the impossible. It was so amazing that she wanted to shout it out as loud as she possibly could for all the world to hear. Ozaki. God, he's so innocent, it makes me want to barf. All Alka would do was sigh. How could she not? Even she was forced to admit that the way he'd snatched her from the jaws of death was dashing. I must be getting soft. Truth be told, he was a lunatic for doing what he did. She steadied her breathing and composed herself. While she was in bad shape, she still had her pride as a mage to consider. That was why she felt a need to maintain an air of dignity. Suzuki, I originally meant to let you off the hook for today only, but I'm willing to let the whole thing go. For the time being, I've decided to let you live. She hastily extended her right hand. It was either to shake his hand or help him up. However, Sojiro did not take her hand, but instead stood up on his own. This night, despite the sheer insanity that he had just experienced, his face had not once looked as incredulous as it did now. What? Something wrong? She stammered, worried that she had deeply embarrassed herself. Sojiro's gaze was fixed upon Alko. A problem had dawned on Alko. Though she normally hated being stared at, this time she did not mind. Rather, she was enjoying the warmth in his eyes and felt it was something she could almost come to appreciate. Don't you get it? This isn't just about friendship, and I didn't mean he only likes you either. Believe me when I say that. Sonoji really... Oh. The conversation came rushing back. It was a memory but better left forgotten. No, not happening. Pushing Tobimaru's words out of her mind, Aoko turned to Sojiro. Don't get any ideas. I don't care about you in the least. Puzzled, Sojiro tilted his head. You already told me how much you dislike me. He responded matter-of-factly to her sudden declaration. She certainly had pointed that out, and to his face no less. It had a mere figure of speech that he had not meant to take literally, but now was not the time to belabor the point. I'm not talking about that. I'm just saying, you shouldn't get your hopes up, no matter how far you followed for me. Yet belabor she did anyway. Aoko blushed slightly, realizing how insane she was being. She wondered how she'd ended up in this position. And yet she knew that she had to get this off her chest. All that was left was for her to patiently wait for his response. I can't date you. Such heartbreakingly painful words were too much for the simple boy to hear. His shoulders slumped as if the world was coming to an end, or so Aoko imagined. On the contrary, Sojiro was sitting there deep in thought. Did you say, I'm in love with you? Sojiro murmured the words as if they were a magic spell. She shot right back with the affirmative. After a moment of deep contemplation, the boy turned to the expectant girl and said, Why do you think that? I love this dude, man. Got that Goku get him attitude. He had to be joking, but he was not. He was completely serious. So he liked her, but he didn't like her. Of course, the vice president had jumped to conclusions. This boy had no interest in romance. He probably didn't even know what that was. So she was so incredibly embarrassed by how confused Sojiro still appeared to be. Her rosy complexion spread throughout her entire body. I'll ask again, but why do you think that? That's what I want to know! You freaking moron, Tobimaru! Just like that, she had lost her cool and given it into an unjustifiable outburst. It was time to seal off the area and destroy all evidence. Aoko's embarrassment devolved into sheer panic, and her grudge against Tobimaru suddenly manifested as criminal assault. She lashed out with a punch that could have taken down a bird mid-flight. More specifically, it was a brutal right hook. Aoko blinked. Her blow had connected with something solid, snapping her out of her reverie. Her temper had lashed out at the completely defenseless Sojiro. It had been a splendid blow with all her weight behind it, knocking him out cold. Damn. Sojiro groaned, crumbling to the ground. Her punch finished the job that the curse had started. If not for the discomfort on her face, he appeared to be almost sleeping. Aoko convinced herself that he was napping, not concussed. Well, whatever. It was always going to end like this anyways. The tension in her shoulders eased away as she looked down at Sojiro. A ton had gotten in her way over the course of today, but the day was saved for now. With nobody left to butt heads, she felt exhaustion finally overtake her. How the heck am I going to walk home like this? Her fatigue was enough to make her complain out loud. When she thought about it, she realized that this was the first time she had used up all her magical energy, and the first time she had participated in a battle of this scale without any prior preparation. No, in truth, It would have ended in mutual destruction if I had been alone. She felt somewhat proud as she whispered those words. Normally it was something that she would beat herself up over, but instead she simply shrugged her shoulders with a bitter smile. After all, it was thanks to the person sleeping by her side. Hey, you can't hear me, can you? As if the night had swallowed her voice before it reached him, she received no response. Confident, she continued in an even quieter voice. So, thank you. You really got me out of a jam there. Of course, there was no response from Sojiro, and she was not expecting one. Saying it for the record was enough. Alko watched Sojiro sleep for a while, and then pulled something out of her pocket. It was the palm-sized glass bottle that her roommate had given her, which she opened with the pop. But none of this matters. Leaving behind words cooler than a winter chill at night, she called his name. She barely sensed the bottle moving. As the silhouette of the fallen boy appeared to blur, she got the feeling that the weight of the bottle had increased slightly. Oh, that's kind of weird. What appeared to be a human form could be clearly seen within the glass. Alice Kawanji's tool were mystics that confounded even the most knowledgeable of mages. As soon as Alko tried to analyze them with logic or reason, she was already out of her depth. Knowing this all too well, Alko closed the bottle and watched the boy disappear as if by some magic trick. Jeez, this is no stage trick, it's actually magic. She muttered as she looked into the magical bottle. Its weight had not changed significantly, and she had no idea how it worked, but one thing she did know was that there was a human being inside of it. Its light weight was almost unnerving, closer to empty air than a human being. It was about as heavy as one would expect if they'd bottled up a summer breeze. Though that did fit her image of Sojiro perfectly. It's just like Alice said. She mothered to nowhere in particular as she recalled the past. This really isn't like me. Alko wore a bittersweet smile. Her usual moodiness was gone. It was a dangerous world out there. It was good to have someone to keep her on her toes. With a wry chuckle, she flicked the magical bottle with her finger and set off walking. She could hear a bell in the distance, signaling the end of the play. An ephemeral dream gave way to reality. In the grand scheme of things, it had been but an instant. As the actors exited stage left, the last of the lights silently flickered out. And so, the long-dead amusement park played its final role, as a memory for a boy and a girl. Farewell, Kitsyland. Like a dog. Okay. Let me save. Is there any new archive stuff? No, it's just the stuff from before, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, that's chapter 4. Chapter 5. 2 parts. Chapter 3. Okay. So, let me go back to title. That was chapter 5, part 2 of Witch on the Holy Night. And I will still be streaming this, but I will not be archiving the VODs publicly. So, I doubt anyone is seeing this right now, but if you are at all interested, make sure to tune in for that. I think I'll probably, given that I don't have another crazy work schedule, I'll probably be doing it Tuesday again. If you want to see more of this, But if not, good night. It's like 10 o'clock right now, 10 o'clock p.m. And I got to sign off for this time. So goodbye, everyone, and